like to warn anyone under the age of 25 that some of the songs you're about to hear contain over 150 words in the lyric, and that isn't the same 5 words repeated over and over again.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Whimsical Tricycle.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for coming down on this rainy day. Now, we might be folk musicians, but it doesn't mean we haven't got massive egos. So can we please try that again? Welcome to the stage, Whimsical Tricycle. Thank you very much.
We'd like to start the show by asking people if anyone in the audience has got a MySpace or a Bebo or a Facebook. Show of hands. There was a woo.
Show of hands. Great.
Hey, there's quite a few of you. Yesterday we had nobody.
The MySpace people always do this. They go, oh, because it's so 2006. The only and just anybody in the audience, you all know what blogging is? Everyone knows what blogging is. Great. See, I'm just a bit concerned that there's a whole bunch of people these days out there. Instead of actually meeting people, they're just all sitting in darkened rooms. And they're just like looking at computer screens, and they're just typing into their stories into the computer, and they're just basically like this, just going, I am a person, I'm an individual, and I exist, please acknowledge me.
I think that just might be you, Kieran.
Maybe they don't do it in that sort of crappy Shakespearean accent, but, you know, like, it's. I'm a bit worried that if everybody's sitting there trying to tell their story on the internet, desperately trying to prove how unique they are, and nobody's probably reading anybody's stories. Busy trying to type. See what I've done there? Yeah. The only reason I bring it up is because the best way I've found to describe what you're about to see is that this show is like a musical weblog. Okay, these songs just come from stories of my life, and I put them into song. It's really that simple. Now, we're from Australia, and we recently got the internet in Australia.
Came last week.
It was really cool. We're loving it, and it's great because there was a lot of guys walking around with nothing to do, and now they can watch porn. So it's great, and so that's great. And we just this song we're about to play now. We put it up on one of the music websites back home in Australia, and it did quite well. It got into the top 10 on the folk charts, which meant that about 5 or 6 people have listened to it, and so. Small country, not many people. Yeah. So yeah, this first song we're about to play, quite simply. A few years ago, I was going out with a girl during the infatuation stage. I wrote this song for her. Now, in the end, she dumped me, but that's not the point. The point is that the song got written, and it's quite good, and it got into the top 10 on the folk charts in Australia. This song's called "Beautiful Wonderful." Pray the saints will watch over you till I can feel you come like the rising sun, slowly burning the morning dew, like every misgiving I've ever had coming undone. You're
So beautiful anyway.
It catches my breath as you coaxing me back to the light. Illuminated, I want to stay. On the road to Damascus, I traveled like a sinner, and I thought it would crash down and hit like a thunderbolt, rosing like the mist on the hills you walked upon. No, I won't be the same when these days are gone. I've crossed the rivers of pain to stand before you, strong enough to take this on. Fall in love every day with everything you are. Future is ours if we dare to be wonderful, with courage to spare, and our passion is bountiful. So beautiful, wonderful, so beautiful. Thank you. Now, in the year 2000, I set off from Australia. I'd worked very, very hard at recording this solo CD. It took me a couple of years, and I decided I wanted to come over to the UK and to Europe just to get a bit of a fresh start on things. And and release my music over here. But on the way, I decided to do a bit of travelling through Southeast Asia. Just raise your hand if you ever put a backpack on and travelled through Southeast Asia. Yeah. Just out the back there, before you left, I was a solo male traveller, right? Did you look through one of those books like A Lonely Planet, Southeast Asia on a shoestring or something like that? Yeah, like a rough guide. Well, I opened up mine, right? On the first page, it said, if you're thinking about travelling through Southeast Asia, but at least even by yourself especially, you might want to consider carrying a full medical kit. And then it listed all this stuff that I was meant to go to a chemist and buy, and I just looked at it and just went, as if I'm doing that just in case something might happen. You know, what a waste of time. You're like, just pointless, really.
But I don't know, a lot of girls I meet travelling, including myself, I take quite a good little medical kit with antibiotic cream and all sorts of stuff. But even the guys you meet on the travelling trail, as part of their emergency supplies, they usually have Berocca and Panadol. Like that's something. Did you have something?
Well, I did have an out-of-date tube of Dettol, and
That's
and I had a couple of plasters, but I was a solo male traveller, so I also had a box of condoms because I was hopeful, you know, that something might happen. And of course, like Murphy's Law, like as it always works out, I was on an island in Malaysia, the Perhentian Islands, and I was doing some snorkeling. And I cut my hand open really badly on the coral, like not a person called Coral, like actual coral. and I was like standing on this rock eventually, and so there's all this blood's coming out of my hand. And two friends of mine, two sisters from a place called Kerry, went past in the canoe, and I was like, help! And they sort of came over, and I had something to wrap my hand in. Took me back to where we all lived, and of course they were girls travelling together, so they had a full medical kit. And they had antibiotic cream, and they also had crepe bandages, which were delicious. And they also had proper bandages, and they bandaged me up and stuff. And I wrote this song for them as a sort of a thank you for doing that. And whenever I perform it, I always like to reminisce about the fact that I actually did think the younger sister was quite cute, and I spent a lot of time trying to get her into bed, you know, because I had my box of condoms. But unfortunately, her elder sister was always there just going, get away from my sister, you Australian freak. And so this also goes out to everyone who's ever done a bit of solo travelling, and you end up in a place for a few days and you meet someone, and then all of a sudden you form a really firm friendship in a short period of time, and next thing you know, you're telling them stuff that you wouldn't tell anybody back home. And you always separate, you go off in separate directions, and you always go, give us your email address, and one day we'll meet up in the place where you live, and usually you don't end up sending them one email. So this song's called Two Sisters from Kerry. Thank you. Tara McCarthy is never enough.
Well, I know I get on your nerves when I go on. I am impossible true. I wish you the best to all of the rest. Pass on my wishes, thank you. Tara McCarthy is never enough when you do. Just passing through, lost and alone, when you all pick me up true. We're all at our best, and under duress, I can start healing anew. Thank you.
Tara McCarthy is never enough. Two sisters from Kerry, one so wise and sharing, the other earning pasta to the heart.
Found him cut and bleeding, and nightingale was needed
to the strains of Weber superstar. Started in the ocean, every fluid motion, stretching every sinew like a rack.
Underwater pleasure I could never measure.
Can you pick a monster in the sack?
I'm craving something you know, so spit it out. Pretty soon we'll be gone, there's no doubt. Make a pact and try to stick it out. Stick with what you know, just go with the flow. You're never better off without. Never better off without. Dusk was gently falling, a journey like a calling to the night and chasing as Mars' post was racing.
Man, we drove for hours, prayed for heavy showers.
Tim was at the wheel, paid for every meal. Two sisters from Kerry, carry one unripened berry, the other a protector from afar. Jesus Christ, I'm craving something you know, so spit it out. Pretty soon we'll be gone, there's no doubt. Make a pact and try to stick it out. Stick with what you know, just go with the flow. You're never better off without. Never better off without. Two sisters from Kerry, one so brave and caring, the other more mystery and charm. Revealed in conversation, wet with perspiration, hiding the sensation.
This could try my patience.
Jesus Christ, I'm craving something you know, so spit it out. Pretty soon we'll be gone, there's no doubt. Make a pact and try to stick it out. Stick with what you know, just go with the flow. You're never better off without. Never better off without.
Thank you.
Kieran and I met years ago. I was invited to be part of his band for a one-off gig on a night of St. Patrick in Melbourne. And we kept our friendship going, and we reunited right here in Edinburgh. My girlfriend and I come over to do nursing. I work in the operating suite. And we came over to Edinburgh and got ourselves a job and a house. And I remember Kieran saying that he was going to be over here too. He was going to be at his brother's wedding in Glasgow, and he was just about to perform his first Edinburgh Fringe Festival, doing a comedy show. So I sent him an email and said, Kel and I have settled into a house. How about we catch up for a beer? And he didn't respond to the email. He just turned up on my doorstep one day with his backpack and his tube of Dettol.
And my box of condoms.
Good on you. Everything had worked out for his Fringe, except his accommodation had fallen through at the last minute. So he said, can I please stay on your floor? So he did for a week, and Kel and I decided we were trying to work out whether he should stay or not. You know, he said, yeah, you can stay for a week, and he's there nearly 2 weeks later. We decided to let him stay for the duration of the Fringe because he cooked a lovely lasagna, but he also did the dishes. Yeah, whoa.
If you ever want to stay in someone's house indefinitely, right, just do the dishes all the time. Right, you can stay there for ages. Like, it's amazing because, like, even if they want you to leave, they can't quite bring themselves to say the words. Like, you know, like you can have sex with their cat, right? And they'll just be going, oh, I reckon the cat will just have to deal with it, you know? I'm not saying you do that. It's just to illustrate the point, you know.
I'm glad we don't have a cat, or didn't have a cat. You idiot. We let him stay. And at the end of the Edinburgh Festival, Kieran wrote me a song, and the song is called Kismet, which it's a word that means destiny or fate, and that's a bit about what we're talking about today, destiny or fate. And Kismet details how we met for that one-off night of St. Patrick in Melbourne to reuniting here in Edinburgh, busking on the Royal Mile, and then doing the Fringe together. This is Kismet.
Watch your warm summer nights in the Melbourne backyard.
George listened in as we started like a din.
My broken wrist ached if I played too hard.
But you were getting better, as gorgeous as the weather.
Till you neglected to mention the reason for my study detention. Until you left on a plane 2 years later. Gonna change your hand on the wheel back there. It's where I thought it would conclude. This promise song I write for you. It's raining in my heart under Glasgow skies.
Everywhere I take the weather, but Neil sings it better.
Facing the abyss of my fractured life.
The backdrop is a wedding and everyone is grinning.
Needing for a job of salvation, sweating with a desperation, until a message comes through not written on paper. An imminent collision of the wheel fade down. What I feel is what I do. This kills me like I never knew. Got a pretty big point to prove from 10,000 miles away, yeah. Started rolling the stone back from that too, yeah. Edinburgh in August and the summer is hot.
Two virgins at the festival bound to make the best of it.
We bust for 3 weeks and my wrist held up
On the raw mile with pressure, grace and style.
Took me back to moments so frantic on a dirty mountain night of St. Patrick. You took a leap of faith just because I prepared you, and you shone like a star that I couldn't compare to. What I feel is what I do. It kills me like I never knew. I wouldn't care how high I flew if I could crash right down with you. I found my place in the final hours with you is where I lay. A stolen kiss I will always miss when I'm recalling these great days. I'm bragging out and I'm reaching out, but with my words it's all betrayed. We're slipping kids with our darkest fears, with these entangled wheels on. Babe, what I feel is what I do. This next song, I told you before about the girl that dumped me. I wrote this song in Frankfurt. We were meeting up. She was living in Amsterdam. I was in Glasgow. We were having a long-distance relationship. And she was due to come in to Frankfurt. I wrote this about an hour before I picked her up from the train station. And it was a couple of days later, she said, "This isn't working out." And I said, "Don't worry about it." And when I wrote this song, I remember looking at the lyrics going, I don't even understand what that's all about, you know. And just to show how duplicitous people like me can be, you know, creative people. A couple of years later, when Michelle and I started courting, I just basically rehashed the lyrics from this song and sent them to her because it seemed to suit the situation. And we were doing the courting thing. I like that word, courting, you know. I think it works so well in the Irish, you know, just like, "Hey, Seamus, where were you last night? Me and the boys were out and we really missed you." "No, it's okay. I was just hanging out with Colleen. We're courting." A nice ring to it, I think, you know. Doesn't work so well in the Australian, like, "Hey, Barry, where were you, mate? Me and the boys were out in the piss last night. I really missed you, mate. You should have come out." "Nah, it's all right. Me and Tracy are just going out the pictures. We're courting."
You can feel the romance, can't you? bazaar. We were out courting and walking around Melbourne, where we're both from. And we just, bazaar, I'm going to call you that all day. We were talking about doing our first Fringe together, and the conversation continued until dawn was upon us. And when we parted ways, that's when Kieran sent me those lyrics in a text message. And I thought it's one of those nice text messages that you keep in your phone. Do you ever do that? And it wasn't for a while that I asked him where it came from, and he said it was a song that he wrote. It was a lot longer after that I realised he wrote it just before he was dumped. But Kieran, the last thing Kieran does for his songs when he writes them is put a title on them. So I give all of his songs sometimes stupid pet names. And maybe this one was stupid too, I don't know. But I called it the text message song because that's how I got it on a text message, and it made sense to me. He didn't like that.
Well, the thing was then Michelle started making this argument to me that we should call it the text message song. And I just think that's a shit name for a song. It's just pointless. Like, I wanted to call it Glory and Love, but like we're in a relationship now, so now we have to compromise. And so now it's called Glory and Love, but in brackets, text message song. You know, check it. It's on the CD. Seriously. Goes a little bit like this. Actually, that's bullshit. People do that all the time, like when they're like doing musical stuff. Musicians are always going, this next song goes a little bit like this. It's crap. It goes exactly like this. They've been playing it the same way for years and years and years, you know. You've got no business saying that stuff, I don't think, unless you're a jazz musician. And even then, you've probably got no business whatsoever trying to predict how the song's going to go in any way, shape. And now we're starting to get you. Isn't that good? It's called Glory and Love. Text message song.
Though contentment was my enemy, though I long for it to capture me and sing this song and make me stronger than the seven seas, crashing through these walls of stone that kept me safe but still alone. I'd love to climb them and look around, try to find what it means to cover yourself in glory and love, like a dove that was trying to find peace. Though contentment was my enemy, though I long for it to capture me and sing this song and make me stronger than the seven seas, crashing through these walls of stone that kept me safe but still alone. I'd love to climb them and look around, try to find what it means to cover yourself in glory and love, like a dove that was trying to find peace.
Talking time was my enemy, though I long for it to capture me and sing this song and make me stronger than the seven seas, crashing through these walls of stone. You kept me safe but still alone. I'd love to climb them and look around, trying to find what it means.
We did the Fringe in 2004 and ended up hanging around Edinburgh for quite some time. It was mainly in the beginning because we found out that mushrooms were still legal through the EC. And so we spent it at a time. We did that for a couple of weeks, and then you have to stop, otherwise we go crazy. And Michelle decided, because she's a nurse, to go to the local hospital and see if there was any work. And I don't know if you know about this, but there's a bit of a nursing shortage in the country, so they were quite happy to say, oh, wow, that'd be cool, you can come and work here. And I don't know if you know, but British bureaucracy can be quite shit. And the hospital was happy to have her working there, but wasn't that keen on forking out the money for the sponsorship visa. So they just didn't bother to go through it, and ended up being a government agency breaking their own laws, tops. And so we didn't worry about that at all until Michelle came back into the country last year. We went back to Australia, and then it came back to haunt us pretty much. She came through UK immigration. They went, well, you've worked here when you didn't have a permit, so you're undesirable. So they locked her in a room for 28 hours. After a 24-hour flight, they locked her in this room and nowhere to sleep and stuff. And then they sent her back to Australia on a plane for another 24-hour flight. And it sort of, it makes sense because, if you do look at her, she does look a lot like a terrorist.
Boo.
And, although on second thought, she had been working in the British hospital system. So, that probably made a lot of sense. Just not going to laugh at that, are you? Pretty tough crowd today with the old laughing thing. Yeah, I'm trying my hardest here. I'm giving you gold. Giving you gold, people. It's not like these jokes haven't worked before, I'm going to walk away from this show and I'm going to go, all the other audiences were laughing their heads off, You're all sitting there going, I didn't know that. Is that funny? Is that funny? I have to check with that person whether that's funny. Is that funny?
Have you finished?
Help me!
Has anyone ever done that long haul flight to Australia? That 24 hours? You can feel it already, the cramped legs and the... takes a few days to straighten out.
Hurts my arms more than...
Flying to Australia. That's a good bad joke. I'll pay that one.
It's the oldest joke in the world.
But yeah, I did that 24-hour flight, and to be locked away for 28 hours, I hadn't showered in 5 days, hadn't eaten in 3 days. I had access to water. Hooray. And got sent back to Australia with prison guards on either side of me, all the way to Sydney they sent me to. But in the 2 weeks I was at home, I slowly recovered.
Nothing more Australian than being sent back to Sydney as a prisoner, is there?
Bound for Botany Bay.
Like a pirate.
We just like the pirate.
You just all the way home with the train, just singing Botany, just annoying the people, just go, we're bound for Botany. Would you just shut up? Sing it to a liar-a-day, to a liar-a-day. I really wish we hadn't sent her back now.
In the 2 weeks I was at home, if the pirate doesn't interrupt me, in the 2 weeks that I was at home, I won my appeal and got sent back to Edinburgh, and I made it here 5 days before we started our fringe. Whew, not bad, hey? 32,000 miles.
Yeah, a long way it was.
A long ways ago, yeah.
A lot of you are probably thinking, what was I doing while she was locked up?
What
well, I
were
was
you
on
doing?
a stopover in Dubai. Because we don't do the long-haul flights anymore. I don't know if guys in the audience realise this, but just check this out. Chicks fully hate it when you sit on the plane for 24 hours going, go, let's join the Mile High Club. Come on, let's join the Mile High Club. Go, let's join the Mile High Club.
It's a very, very long flight.
And the funniest thing was last year we told once we did the show last year, I told all the audiences the same story that we're telling you now. And there was always some Scottish person in the audience going, oh, that's a great story. I've just got one question for you. Who had to pay for the flight home? And we went Qantas, and they went, the immigrants, they get everything, don't they? I don't get any free flights to Australia. It's just shite.
But I had one of Kieran's songs going around in my head because I had plenty of time to think in 28 hours. And this song was just going round and round. And it's kind of when some days Kismet works for you and you think it's all lovely and rosy and the day's great. And other days you think your destiny's just really annoying you and you stop believing in it for a moment. And
This is called Said and Done.
She is barely breathing and staring at the ceiling, a million miles from where the story starts. I keep on pretending that every happy ending was written long ago amongst the stars. Believe that what you're feeling can move the deepest ocean, face the notion of eternity apart. But if your constitution can bear the prostitution, then buying what you're selling isn't hard. And you can talk about fate till the cows come home, said and done. Look around the constellations, you will always be the second son. If karma's wrong, you never get it in return. It doesn't matter all the good you thought you'd done. You can talk about fate till the cows come home, it's said and done. Every waking moment consumed with what was spoken without the present entity of touch. Grieving, understanding the price of sacrifice, and know what matters might not matter very much. No one's here forever, a statement less than clever. Your life can drag you right around the world. The planets, they will guide you, and moons create the tides that draw you to that very special pearl. You can talk about fate till the cows come home, it's said and done. Look around the constellations, you will always be the second son. If karma's wrong, you'll never get it in return. It doesn't matter all the good you thought you'd done. You can talk about fate till the cows come home. And I want to know where you'll be when the morning comes. It's said and done. Look around the constellations, you will always be the second son. You can talk about fate till the cows come home, it's said and done. Look around the constellations, you will always be the second son. If karma's wrong, you'll never get it in return. It doesn't matter all the good you thought you'd done. It's said and done. Look around, look around, look around, look around, look around. It's said and done. Look around the constellations, you will always be the second son. You can talk about fate till the cows come home, it's said and done. Thank you.
Water. So good. I kept my promise to the girls from Kerry. I did keep in touch with them. And I got to visit them where they lived, in Kerry, surprisingly. And that was by a strange quirk of fate, as it turned out, because I travelled to New Zealand at short notice to spend some time with my dying grandfather. And I was meant to be there for a week to spend time with him, but he changed the script on that because he passed away about 3 days after I got there. And that gave me time to go and see the girls up north. And I arrived on the Sunday night, went to see my grandfather on the Monday. And he barely recognised me. It all seemed like a bit of a waste of time to begin with, because they had him on these drugs to cure his diabetes and his alcoholism. And because of that, he just didn't know what was going on. And I remember saying to the doctors, I said, why have you got him on drugs to cure his diabetes and his alcoholism? Wouldn't you isn't he going to die in a couple of weeks' time? And they went, oh, yeah. And I said, well, why wouldn't you just give him a bottle of scotch and a block of chocolate and just say, fucking go for it, And they went on about something to do with the hippopotamus oath, which I didn't quite understand. That's a Simpsons gag for anyone who watches The Simpsons all the time, like me. And I love that joke, hippopotamus oath. And so they sort of took my advice and they took him off the drugs. And the next day he was really lucid, and it was like he was going to live for another 3 months. We chatted away about a whole bunch of stuff, and he had an old nylon string guitar, and so I played him a few songs on the guitar, and he loved music. So it was just really, it was really sweet, and I spent some time with him and stuff. And he was back to his feisty self. He's going, oh, can you sneak me in some scotch, And I went, yeah, no problem. And so I went home to my uncle's place, and about 11:30 that night, my uncle and I were just finishing off a bottle of bourbon because the alcoholism runs in the family, and we were quite pissed. And they rang us from the hospital and said, look, your grandfather's taken a turn for the worse, and he's gone down to intensive care. There's not long to go if you want to come down. And, you know, using drunk person logic, we couldn't even work out how to call for a cab. We had to work out who was going to drive. So we tossed a coin and I won, and my uncle drove the car down to the hospital. And we weren't that concerned about the drink driving thing, because we figured that if we ran someone over on the way, we were on our way to the hospital anyway, so we could just give them a lift, you know, and it would all work out well. And but it was fine. We got down there safely, and I just spent the last few hours with my grandfather, stroking his head and held his hand and played songs to him on the guitar in intensive care, which I know sounds a bit weird, but in the Maori culture, they do it all the time, so they're used to it in the hospitals in New Zealand. They, in the Maori culture, they sing and they celebrate someone's life while they're in the process of dying, as opposed to waiting until after they've actually died. And I was thinking about this about a year later when I went to a war memorial service for Anzac Day in Australia, and it was dawn service, and I was thinking about my grandfather because he fought in the Second World War, and he was one of the unlucky ones who came back physically, but not so much mentally. We would probably call what he suffered from post-traumatic stress, and it contributed to his drinking, and it sent waves down through one side of my family on my mother's side. And I was thinking about his life and what he'd worked his way through and been able to try and combat, and I thought about my own life, which hadn't been a bed of roses up to that point, but in contrast, really, you know, there was no excuse. I started to think about the fact that there's just no excuse for me not going out and actually, in the short time that I've got on the planet, trying to do what it is that I really want to do. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to perform, and I wanted to get my music out there. And it wasn't like I was doing nothing. I was working hard on my comedy at the time, but I had a bit of an epiphany about sort of redoubling my efforts, I suppose. And you know, like most people I know anyway, having had an epiphany, I decided to go home and I rolled a big joint and got stoned, and just sat there thinking about the epiphany that I'd had, and picked up the guitar, and I wrote this next song. It's about my grandfather, but it's also about a bunch of other people that I'd met in my life up to that point. It's called Blessed Schism. Blessed schism, so romantic, could be sycophantic, such a horror to be analyzed. Yet thousands mumble at the sunrise. It makes me realize that I've really gotta live a life. Once took a vigil with a skinful, I played original. I hope that every song would set him free. I felt the weeping of my family, it didn't scare me. I think Valhalla was awaiting him. And I felt it all, 'cause if I didn't, then I wouldn't belong. And I've cried before, but it didn't really lift me up. And I've loved them all. Once knew a boy who was a dreamer, a true believer, but I lost him in the blur of life. And when I stopped to call his name out, I heard he checked out, and the way he left was suicide. I knew a girl, I think I loved her, but I was gutless, and I kept my counsel right inside. I lost a daughter in a shit fight, and though I did right, there's a part of me that's always lost. And I felt it all, 'cause if I didn't, then I wouldn't belong. And I've cried before, but it didn't really lift me up. And I've loved them all. Once had a friend who got to thinking, I'm sick of drinking, and the fucked up way it makes me feel. He got the courage, so he gave up. It shook his life up. Now he's flying like a Ferris wheel. I love a schism so romantic. It's like a blanket. Makes me wonder what it could be like. I stand with thousands at the sunrise. It makes me realize that I've really gotta live a life. And I felt it all, 'cause if I didn't, then I wouldn't belong.
And I've cried before, but it didn't really lift me up. And I've loved them all. Ah, 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 ah.
We had a happy occasion in my family 2 years ago where the eldest of the 4 kids got married, and Janine's only 15 months older than me, but she was far enough advanced on the piano to be able to accompany me for my violin exams. That's pretty handy having your sibling in there with you. So for her wedding, I wanted to give her something special and unique, and I'd been doing the music with Kieran, so I thought maybe I can get his help with writing a song for her. I'd never written a poem in my life, but I thought maybe I can have a go at writing a song.
See, Shell doesn't write the songs. She writes the violin parts to the songs, but I write the songs. And a lot of people do that when you're a songwriter. They go, oh, you should write a song about that, you know. And so she said, oh, you should write a song for my sister's wedding. And so I don't even know your sister. I don't know who she's getting married to. I said, that could be really embarrassing. You could go, I'm too much of a cheapskate to get you a proper present, so I wrote you a song. And then they go, listen to it and go, that's a bit shit. I wish you'd bought me a toaster, you know. So I basically put it back to Michelle. I said, you know, well, why don't you write some words and then I'll put the music to it and then it'll be like a joint effort, you know, wouldn't that be cool? Like, so, you know.
Yeah, I didn't get very far. I wrote a couple of lines and threw them out. That wasn't good enough, didn't like that, blah, blah, blah. Waited.
She just did what most people do, I think, in relationships. They want their partner to do something. They just sit around, they just wait. Like I do it with the washing. I just throw the washing in the corner of a room and then a big pile builds up and eventually it disappears and then comes back and it's all been washed and neatly pressed. It's a brilliant system, you know. And she was just doing that. So I thought it's not a bad idea. So I thought I'll give it a go.
It's all lies.
I'll try and get his lies. I'll try and come up with something. And the first thing I came up with went a bit like this. It was like, there's a 40% chance that you're going to get divorced.
I didn't think that was appropriate, though, just quietly.
It's fair enough, too, because by that stage, the statistic had gone up to 50%, so it would have been out of date. You know, it's the worst type of present to get, I think. You know, like, in the end, the first line of this came to me sort of as I was coming out of sort of a dream state, and I thought, oh, there's something in that. So I sat down and started working on it, and you know, like her sister always she used to come up to me just going, oh, thanks for that song about us. Yeah, whatever. It's not about you at all. I was thinking about Michelle. I was thinking more so, though, about her parents who are going to be at this wedding and anybody who's been able to make a marriage last, you know, because it is so hard in this day and age. And this song's called 32 Years.
I think I can paint you a picture that shows you and me in 32 years from now. Wrapped and entwined is the roots of a family tree that soars above the ground. We walked 1,000,000 miles just to get there, and every road home was a blessing. I forgot to say thank you. I hope I stop and say thank you for taking the time just to notice me there and the small things I do just for you. I'm sure I could sing you a song that would tell where we'll be in
32 years from now. Beaming and proud of the branches we watch grow from seeds to bent and fruitful boughs.
We struggle, love and cuddle to get there. I took it for granted at times. I forgot to say bless you. I hope I stop and say thank you for being the one who believed I could do all the small things I do just for you.
Janine loved the song, and funnily enough, she still hasn't got a toaster. My sister's wedding day was the last day I remember my mum looking so beautiful. She was bright pink dress. And it was a great day to be with her because 7 months later, she lost her battle with cancer at the age of 59. I always find this part hard. I feel privileged to have had a mum for 32 years, funnily enough. Myself today. The day after the funeral, and it was Dad's idea, we decided to go to the races. We went to Flemington, which is the home of the famous Melbourne Cup, and it's a place where Mum used to go with her own dad. And on a day where you thought someone might be helping you out with some racing tips, we didn't win a bloody race. Not one damn horse came through for us.
I think there's something in it for all of us there. If you're ever by someone's deathbed and you're asking them to give you racing tips from beyond the grave, we've worked out that it's probably a good idea to specify which particular race meeting that you're referring to and the numbers of the races, because it's a big day for them. They're up there meeting new people and that sort of thing, and they're going, who's going to win the race? And they're sending down all these numbers, and you're like going, oh, what do they pertain to? And there's nothing worse, as we found out, obviously, than opening up the newspaper the next day and realising all the numbers that you had could have made you a millionaire at another racetrack, and you're still poor. Like, that's really annoying.
Tip of the day.
Yeah, so, you know.
Yeah, she would have been busy hanging out with Mozart, I reckon.
Good advice.
Gilbert and Sullivan.
He's a bad influence, Mozart.
Crazy hair, though.
Yeah, I know. You know, he was into all sorts of stuff. It was weird. But I just come back into the country, to Australia, from doing the Fringe, funnily enough, and we say funnily enough a lot, man. I've just noticed. And I'd just come back, and I walked into this family in this situation and was meeting them pretty much for the first time, and because we started our relationship overseas, and I take people's stuff on as it is, like, and I just needed some time by myself. So while they were at the races, I went down to the beach, and which I hadn't seen a beach for a while, and just sat there with my guitar and started to write, and I just needed to get all the stuff that was in here out. And I write songs for a lot of reasons, but therapy is probably one of the main ones. It's good therapy. It's you want to watch it though. It's a bit chicken and egg. Like, if you write songs for therapy, you'll end up becoming a songwriter, and then you'll never have enough money to pay for a professional therapist. Then you have to write more songs for therapy, and it just goes round and round in circles, you know. When I wrote this, I was just thinking about Michelle and myself. We'd been through a pretty tough time, but I was mainly thinking about what it would be like to lose your life partner in such tragic circumstances. This song's called Gone.
If I thought you knew what you were looking for, if this is what you're meant to find, and I was just as humble, I would stagger soon and stumble. I want you to be mine. It's like we always face a common enemy. We're never really good enough. Its presence is commanding, and the depth of understanding makes me love you too much. I don't want to lose my friend, but I don't know if I'm managing hanging on. It's hard to be sure when it ends. With the very last breath, you will know it's gone. Oh. I listen but don't hear the call. So scared of what you've lost. I know what you hate me for. I don't want to believe it. I think we both know what this means. Busy lives with most of your dreams. But I think these things of you. Stand tall and take on the weight of the world. Like a woman, although you're a slip of a girl. You think all the love in your beautiful heart can heal all the sadness that tears us apart. Maybe you're right, I hope that I'm wrong. Though we're often together, we can be together on our own. Together, together on our own. I don't want to lose my friend, but I don't know if I'm managing hanging on. It's hard to be sure when it ends. With the very last breath, you will know it's gone. I don't want to lose my friend, but I don't know if I'm managing hanging on. It's hard to be sure when it ends. With the very last breath, you will know it's gone.
Thank you.
Okay, coming to the end of the show now, and oh, thank you very much. Cheers. They must have known about that. And before I do this last song, just want to ask everyone in the audience, how many people here have ever had a sibling tell them exactly what they think of them? Excellent.
They know you so
Hey.
well.
All the people who didn't put their hands up, you want to be careful of that because we might think it's you that done it.
We've had siblings in the audience that just point to each other. Did you just do that?
It always happens at Christmas. People always come up to you and someone you've known your whole life's just going, here's something that we want to tell you for years. You suck completely. Happened to me when my brother came over for his first London winter. And I'm in Australia still. He's been travelling. He comes to London. And most, I don't know if you know about this, but Australians get really depressed when the days get shorter over here because they're just walking around going, where's the sun? Oh, no, the sun's gone away. Oh, I won't come back. And they don't get enough serotonin, so they start getting really depressed. And my brother wasn't helping this out by drinking all the time and taking lots of acid. And, this was years ago. He's much more responsible now, but, he was doing this stuff years ago. And so I rang him for Christmas. I say Happy Christmas, and all of a sudden the whole conversation just ended into him going, I've been wanting to tell you this for years. You think you're a rock star. You're not a rock star. You're just a big fucking wanker. Like this. And I've cleaned it up, And it was much worse than that. I was like, tell me what you really reckon, And we got off that phone call. And 3 days later, in the intervening 3 days, he's gone to Dublin, drunk his way all the way to Dublin, drunk in Dublin for a wedding, come back. He's coming back through Holyhead, decides to pick up a public phone and ring me reverse charges to apologise for a whole hour. Like drunk people always do, just going, I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah, some other stuff happened, and then we were there. And, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm really, really sorry. And I wrote this last song for him. It's called Insane in London. It's the title track to the show. Sort of describes what happened to Shell. It's a tenuous link at best, we know that. And so, don't bother pointing that out. And this song goes exactly like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
On top of the world down in Napier, Stories of weight gain and drinking and thinking. I heard you got laid in Los Angeles. I'll buy a round for American girls. But things are now insane in London. Just when you thought you could leave it behind, you reverse charges on a bottle of whiskey to give me a piece of your mind. You were never that tough. Well, I heard you were happy in Amsterdam, but everyone's happy in Amsterdam. Getting caught short with no mode of transport, and everyone's happy in Amsterdam. But things are now insane in London. Just when you thought you could leave it behind, you reverse charges on a bottle of whiskey to give me a piece of your mind. You were never that tough. No. Football in Frankfurt and weddings in Dublin.
Riding for hours, waking up in the rain.
Here comes a friend
is in need. Oh, what a fuck up a friend is indeed.
Things are now insane in London. Just when you thought you could leave it behind, you reverse charges on a bottle of whiskey to give me a piece of your mind. You were never that tough. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for Michelle Wilson.
And to my husband of 6 months, Kieran Butler.
Thank you very much. And for Jeff on the light and the sound, please, big round of applause. He has to see this 24 times. You only had to see it once. This is Jeff's birthday present from us to him. How many people here know what Buckfast is? Put your hand up. Excellent. Okay.
We've written a
this
bad,
gets a bit
bad
blue.
song.
This gets a bit blue, but it's all very... Look, what happened was we came over in 2004. I was doing something on an old radio station called Beat 106. So the listeners rang up and said, write a song about Buckfast. So I did in 24 hours. We put it on the radio. It's become a bit of a hit on YouTube. It goes a bit like this. Feel free to sing along. The refrain is easy to catch on to. It just goes like this. Who the fuck are you looking at? You ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that's turn your guitar on. Good one. First lesson in music. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who the fuck are you looking at? Who the fuck are you looking at? I've been drinking Bucky since I was 13. Who the fuck are you looking at? I'm a pure white bam if you know what I mean. Who the fuck are you looking at? Been touched by God, this tonic wine. Who the fuck are you looking at? It'll turn you into Satan if you drink it all the time. Who the fuck are you looking at? Pure Ned champagne going to my brain. We live in Cold Bridge, there's nothing in the fridge. Track pants are white, looking for a fight. If you're like that, I'm like that. Who the fuck are you looking at? Buckfast. 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 Pure net champagne going to my brain. We live in Cold Bridge, there's nothing in the fridge. Track pants are white, looking for a fight. If you're like that, I'm like that. Who the fuck are you looking at? Buckfast! 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 Who the fuck are you looking at? Yeah! Thanks so much, folks. Thank you.